who with 900 good soldiers kept Santa Anna in awe at Perote, has been sent for to Mexico, Bustamante wishing to reunite his forces. These troops, together with those of Codallos, the governor of Puebla, brings up his army to 3,500, or some say to 4,000 men, all effective, and of which 900 are good cavalry. Bustamante being now at the head of the army, Hechavarria exercises the executive power according to the constitution, in his capacity of president of the Council of State (Consejo de Estado), the Mexicans having no vice president. Santa Anna, who had until now remained in Perote with his unorganized troops, no officers on whom he could depend, and a handful of miserable cavalry, has moved forwards to Puebla. Arrived there, his numbers were increased by 100 men of the tobacco customs, brought him by Señor , who, with a rich Spanish banker, went out to meet him, 40 horsemen seduced from the escort of Codallos, and a company of watchmen. As yet no movement has taken place or seems likely to take place in his favour in Puebla. Señor Haro is named governor of that city in the place of Codallos, who was sent for to join the president in Mexico, and Puebla, which used to be the great theatre of revolutions, has remained on this occasion in the most perfect neutrality, neither declaring for one party nor the other, probably the wisest course to pursue at this juncture. Every one is of opinion that 500 troops sent by Bustamante would instantly put this mongrel army of Santa Anna's to flight, for though he has collected about 1,000 men, he has not 300 good soldiers. On the other hand, General Paredes is marching in this direction with General Cortázar, his orders from Santa Anna no doubt being to keep the president in play, and to divert his attention by treaties or preliminaries of treaties, whilst he continues to march with caution towards the capital. The great event to be dreaded by the government is a junction of the pronunciado forces. As long as they are separated, it is in no immediate danger, but like the bundle of rods, what can easily be broken separately will assume strength when joined together. I make no further excuse for talking about politics. We talk and think of little else. 21st. Yesterday, Sunday, we were startled by the intelligence that General Canalizo and Noriega had arrived at the village in the middle of the night with a large troop, and that General Bustamante himself had made his appearance there at 5 in the morning, so that the peaceful little Tlanapantla had suddenly assumed a warlike appearance. As it lies on the direct road to Guanajuato, there could be no doubt that they were marching to meet Paredes. C n immediately walked down to the village to pay his respects to the president, who was lodged at the curate's, and meanwhile General Noriega came to the hacienda to see the ladies. C n found the president very much fatigued, having passed 14 days and nights under arms and in constant anxiety. General Orbegoso was with him. After breakfast we went down to the village to see the troops, who were resting there for a few hours. The cavalry occupied the square, the horses standing, and the men stretched asleep on the ground, each soldier beside his horse. The infantry occupied the churchyard. Dreadfully fatigued, they were lying, some on the grass, and others with their heads pillowed on the old tombstones, resting as well as they could with their armour on. Before they started, the curate said mass to them in the square. There was a good deal of difficulty in procuring the most common food for so many hungry men. Tortillas had been baked in haste, and all the hens in the village were put in requisition to obtain eggs for the president and his officers. We sat down in a porch to see them set off, a melancholy sight enough, in spite of drums beating and trumpets sounding. An old soldier, who came up to water his own and his master's horse, began to talk to us of what was going on, and seemed anything but enthusiastic at the prospects of himself and his comrades, assuring us that the army of General Paredes was double their number. He was covered with wounds received in the war against Texas, and expressed his firm conviction that we should see the Comanche Indians on the streets of Mexico one of these days, at which savage tribe he appeared to have a most devout horror, describing to a gaping audience the manner in which he had seen a party of them devour 3 of their prisoners. About 4 o'clock the signal for departure was sounded, and they went off amidst the cheers of the people. 22nd. Great curiosity was excited yesterday afternoon when news was brought us that Bustamante, with his generals and troops, had returned, and had passed through the village on their way back to Mexico. Some say that this retrograde march is in consequence of a movement made in Mexico by General Valencia; others that it has been caused by a message received from General Paredes. We paid a visit in the evening to the old curate, who was pretty much in the dark, morally and figuratively, in a very large hall, where were assembled a number of females and one tallow candle. Of course all were talking politics, and especially discoursing of the visit of the president the preceding night, and of his departure in the morning, and of his return in the afternoon, and of the difficulty of procuring tortillas for the men and eggs for the officers. 23rd. We have received news this morning of the murder of our porter, the Spaniard whom we had brought from Havana. He had left us and was employed as porter in a fábrica (manufactory), where the wife and family of the proprietor resided. 8 of General Valencia's soldiers sallied forth from the citadel to rob this factory, and poor José, the most faithful and honest of servants, having valiantly defended the door, was cruelly murdered. They afterwards entered the building, robbed, and committed dreadful outrages. They are selling printed papers through the streets to day, giving an account of it. The men are taken up, and it is said will be shot by orders of the general, but we doubt this, even though a message has arrived requiring the attendance of the padre who confesses criminals, a Franciscan monk, who with various of his brethren are living here for safety at present. The situation of Mexico is melancholy. 24th. News have arrived that General Paredes has arrived at the Lecheria, an hacienda belonging to this family, about 3 leagues from San Xavier, and that from thence he sent one of the servants of the farm to Mexico, inviting the president to a personal conference. The family take this news of their haciendas being turned into military quarters very philosophically. The only precaution on these occasions being to conceal the best horses, as the pronunciados help themselves, without ceremony, to these useful quadrupeds wherever they are to be found. 26th. This morning General Bustamante and his troops arrived at Tlanapantla, the president in a coach. Having met C n on the road, he stopped for a few moments and informed him that he was on his way to meet General Paredes at the Lecheria, where he hoped to come to a composition with him. We listened all day with anxiety, but hearing no firing, concluded that some arrangement had in fact been made. In the evening we walked out on the high road and met the president, the governor, and the troops all returning. What securities Bustamante can have received no one can imagine, but it is certain that they have met without striking a blow. It was nearly dusk as they passed, and the president bowed cheerfully, while some of the officers rode up and assured us that all was settled. Sunday, 27th. Cavalry, infantry, carriages, cannon, etc., are all passing through the village. These are the pronunciados, with General Paredes following to Mexico. Feminine curiosity induces me to stop here, and to join the party who are going down to the village to see them pass. We have just returned after a sunny walk and an inspection of the pronunciados. They are too near Mexico now for me to venture to call them the rebels. The infantry, it must be confessed, was in a very ragged and rather drunken condition; the cavalry better, having borrowed fresh horses as they went along. Though certainly not point device in their accoutrements, their good horses, high saddles, bronze faces, and picturesque attire had a fine effect as they passed along under the burning sun. The sick followed on asses, and amongst them various masculine women with sarapes or mangas and large straw hats, tied down with coloured handkerchiefs, mounted on mules or horses. The sumpter mules followed, carrying provisions, camp beds, etc., and various Indian women trotted on foot in the rear, carrying their husbands' boots and clothes. There was certainly no beauty amongst these feminine followers of the camp, especially amongst the mounted Amazons, who looked like very ugly men in a semi-female disguise. The whole party are on their way to Tacubaya to join Santa Anna. The game is nearly up now. Check from 2 knights and a castle from Santa Anna and Paredes in Tacubaya, and from Valencia in the citadel. People are flying in all directions, some from Mexico and others from Guadalupe and Tacubaya. It appears that Santa Anna was marching from Puebla, feeling his way towards the capital in fear and trembling.